All right, for the third part, Heathen Dog is going to talk to us. He just told me like 3 times. I already forgot what he's going to talk to us about. So, Heathen Dog, what are you going to talk about?
Okay, I'm going to finish up my talk about astral space. I'm going to talk about names, true names, and key knowledges to increase your knowledge of a pattern, therefore your connection to it, increasing the magical effect. Now, this is going to be important because I'm going to really hit home the idea that astral space and the physical world are connected. Whether magic is strong or not, the connection's still there, but different.
We believe that role-playing games should take place in fantastic worlds. The focus of the game should be on role-playing and having a good time. The core values of #RPGate and any good tabletop group are escapism, not representation, entertainment over activism, and natural, organic inclusion, not forced diversity. The charity we support is the Wounded Warrior Project, a national, nonpartisan organization whose mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Please refer to the description below for the link to where you can make your hopefully tax-deductible donation. Join us Thursday and Saturday evenings on twitch.tv/Legion of Myth to watch Heathen Dog and his team of dirty casuals play multiplayer games for your mockery and enjoyment. Here on our YouTube channel, you can watch these game-related segments live every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Time, or check out the Friday Night Chill stream where our panel of guests opine, comment, and editorialize on the TTRPG hobby as a whole. Please like this video and leave a comment to appease the algorithm gods. Share this video on your favorite social media platforms to help us peer out of the shadows cast over us. And if you have not done so already, please subscribe to Legion of Myth for more tabletop RPG goodness.
All right. And I don't know why that's not working.
It's not showing anymore? Oh, hey!
Add to stream. Has that happened before?
No, but I mean, it's trying to show. It's just not
It's
showing.
trying. Let me stop it and restart. Hang on.
Okay.
Present. Let me do it all over again. Maybe it's just weird.
Oh, there's trying. I see the spinning
wheel.
Circle.
There's a circle. Oh.
And it didn't work.
What? What the hell?
It's not even in the preview now.
No. What the hell?
Hold on. We forgot to do this. It's his segment. He screwed everything
there
up.
It is. There it is.
Look
at that. You did it. All right. Now, astral space, the idea of patterns has to be just burned into your brain if you're going to play Earthdawn. Patterns are the secret sauce that makes everything work. Astral space is littered with patterns. Everyone is their own dream catcher. What it looks like in astral space, a multi-layered dream catcher if you have a true name, which all PCs do because you're named of a race. You named yourself. You rename yourself. That's how it works. That's how magic works. The idea, what you believe will eventually become reality if you work toward it long enough. That's how magical items are made. That's how you grow in power. The deeds of the real world affect your astral pattern, which in effect gives your physical pattern in the real world more power. It's a self-perpetuating symbiosis. Now, I spoke in earlier videos about the waxing and waning of magic in 5,000 year cycles. 5,000 years of magic, growing, ebbing and waning. Waxing and waning, and then 5,000 years of no magic. Now, this doesn't mean astral space is disconnected. No, you are always connected to your astral pattern, but I want you to think of it as astral plane and the physical plane. When magic is high, they're coming together. When magic is low, they're drifting apart. They never completely separate because, like I said, if you break the link between an astral pattern and a physical pattern, they will both die. They never break. They just get spread thin. So magic cannot flow from astral to physical. It's too far away. The connections are too thin. But as magic increases, the planes get closer together. And now magic can flow more freely. Think of astral space like that. in the time of Earthdawn, just like in the time of Shadowrun, magic is close enough together. I'm sorry, astral space is close enough in proximity to the dimension of physical space that magic can freely flow. That's where you live now. That's your world. Astral space and physical space are closer together in your mind. There's not really physically closer together. It's more of an abstract thought, but are closer together. Therefore, magic flows.
It's metaphysically closer.
Yes, it's metaphysically closer together. Now,
so I'm looking down a lot here because I'm going to answer a comment here later on, and I'm trying to find the exact paragraph where it's in. So I'm not ignoring Heathen Dog.
I understand. Now, names and naming. This is important because this is the physical world and the actions of name givers, those people who are sentient races in Earthdawn, affect the astral world by doing things in the physical world. Now, I spoke in an earlier video about making a magical item from a mundane item. If you do great feats, legendary feats, feats worthy of song with this item, using this item, or, everyone around seeing it, you extol the virtues of this item that it allowed you to do this, then the physical act of you doing that and the act of everyone seeing it will affect astral space and make its pattern, the pattern of the item, sword, axe, armor, whatever, more complex. It will now get more layers in its pattern until it becomes a named thing. And once it does that, it becomes magical. You can connect a thread to it from your pattern to its pattern, and the magic will flow. Now, it's the same thing for places. Places, you can do the same thing. You can do it on purpose by creating a gladiatorial arena. And when you step in the arena, you say, in this arena, I am all powerful, and you win. You constantly win. You're just winning. You're Charlie Sheen in Tiger Blood, man. You're just winning here. People will start to think that you and this place together are unstoppable. That will mean this is not just a normal arena, a gladiatorial arena anymore. No, it is Billy Joe Bob's Arena of Victory.
Those
it
names
has a name now. It's a shitty name, but it's a name, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Now, with you connected up your pattern and connected to the pattern of this place, you now win more often because you win more often. See, it's a feedback loop. You're doing things in physical world that strengthen its connection to the astral world, which now sends more magic back to the physical world, which means you win even more. Like I said, pattern items, pattern places grow with you. As you grow in power, they grow in power because you, by virtue of you doing the things you do, increase the legend of not only you, but the item or place that you're using to do it. Now, knowing that you're increasing the legend of this item or place, how do you tap into that power? How do you actually draw that greater amount of magic? Well, you increase the strength of the thread that ties your pattern to the pattern of the thing or place. How do you do that? With key knowledges. Key knowledges, pattern knowledge. Here we go. Pattern items. And we'll just do this right here. I'm sorry, it's going to be a little weird. There we go. A true pattern identifies an entity, place, or object as an individual, something separate from others of its type. True patterns consist of 3 intertwined parts. Once a mundane item becomes a pattern item, it gets a true pattern, a pattern that is complex. It must have these 3 things. 1, a name associated with the pattern, usually what we would refer to as a proper noun. Like I said, it's
Billy
not
Bob.
the gladiatorial arena. It is Billy Joe Bob's Arena of Victory. It now has a name that separates it from other arenas. The gazebo of Horus separates it from your average gazebo because of the events that have transpired there and altered its pattern. The second is a history of that pattern, interactions with magic, significant events, important behaviors. This is the I only use this axe to do called shots to someone's skull because I call it the skull crusher. You do that enough, you crush enough skulls, it becomes Billy Bob's skull crusher because of the events that have transpired to make it that way. It crushes skulls. That's what it does. And number 3, rules or ways in which the pattern uses is affected by or interacts with magic. This is the magical bonuses that it gives you. The Billy Bob Skull Crusher crushes skulls. Well, how does it do that? When calling a shot on someone's skull, it's easier to get an armor defeating hit. That's the magic it gives. That's the bonus it gives for doing what it is. It's named the Skull Crusher. It got that name by crushing skulls. Therefore, the magic that it imbues upon you is a greater ability to, say it with me, crush skulls. There you go.
See, I'm listening.
It needs these 3 things to be a pattern item, but the more things it is associated with in that vein, the more complex the pattern goes, and the more power you can eventually get from it. Well, how do you do that? You increase the strength of your thread by getting pattern knowledges. Now, we're going to move on from I made this pattern item through my deeds and actions, because you're going to know everything about that. You pick up an item. The troubadour or the wizard or the forge guy. What's his name?
Oh, the weaponsmith.
Weaponsmith can examine the item and see if it's a pattern item or not, if it's already magical. If it is, great. Now, you have to find out those 3 things to attach the very first level of thread to this pattern. You have to find out its name. You have to find out how it got that name, and then what it does because of that name. You find out those 3 things, boom. You can now connect a thread from your pattern to its pattern to activate the first level of power. And I'm not there is a to connect a thread you have to roll there's a there's a whole
legend
roll,
point cost. Usually it's key knowledge, legend point cost, and make a roll.
And make a roll. You succeed in all those things, boom, you're connected. Now, to deepen your understanding and therefore the magical flow, you have to increase the thickness of the thread between your pattern and its pattern. You do that by learning more about it. You need to learn something else about this thing. Billy Bob Skull Crusher. Billy Bob was a warrior way back in the last scourge, 5,000 years ago. Billy Bob was a warrior, a great warrior, killed so many horrors by crushing their skulls with a skull crusher. So you know Billy Bob's name, you know it's called the Skull Crusher, and you know how that name came about. Boom, first thread. But to increase the power of that thread, the thickness of that thread between you and the item, you have to learn more about the item, the history of the item. These are called key knowledges. Now, you learn more about Billy Bob. Billy Bob, he decided that during the beginning of the last scourge, his job was to go to the areas in his realm, in his country or whatever, where horrors were attacking, and crush all their skulls. He was a wandering paladin hero. You learn that about him. You learn that about his item, which he used to do this. Now you can strengthen the thread between you and the item to level 2. This will give you either an increased magical effect or a new one along the same vein. For example, Skull Crusher level 1 allows you to get an armor defeating hit on an excellence, on a good success or better. Let's say
instead of excellent, good is easier.
Instead of excellent, it's 1 level lower. It's easier to defeat armor. Level 2 is when you are calling a shot to the head, you increase the damage by 2 steps. That could be it. So now that you have a level 2 thread, it's thicker. It can push more magic through it without failing. You get more power, more magical power. Knowledge increases the size of your thread to the astral pattern. The astral pattern can now push more magic into the physical world, creating magic in the physical world as these effects. It's a self-propagating cycle. The thicker the thread, the more magic, the more power. It grows with you and with your knowledge of the item. Now, as you get to higher levels of power, level 4, level 5 thread, sometimes it's not just knowledge that you need. You have to go perform a deed that Billy Bob did. For example, what really solidified Billy Bob's legend as the skull-crushing horror killer is that a named horror arrived in his hometown. He ran back to his hometown and he weakened the horror by doing a test of wills with the horror to shatter the horror's will, to humble him, bring his skull down, and now he can crush it. You learn of that event, and now to increase your power level of thread between you and Billy Bob's old axe, you have to find a horror and do a battle of wills with it and win. That's your deed.
Deeds usually unlock, they're not always the highest level ones, but when you compare them to the other powers you get from the key knowledges, they're usually a bit more significant or a little bit out of scope. Like, oh, well, that's weird. This one gave me plus to hit. This one gave me plus to damage. This one gave me plus to armor class. This gave me the ability to do something completely different. That's usually a deed.
For example, after doing the test of wills with this horror and then crushing his skull with the skull crusher, you get to increase the strength of your thread to say level 5. But the power of the 5th level of this item is not crushing skulls, not, bypassing armor. It's say social defense increase against horrors or spell defense against horrors.
There you go.
It's more tied to the deed than the initial power of the item.
Which is really cool about Earthdawn weapons, because if you're used to Dungeons & Dragons, like, oh, I get a +2 sword, or I get a +3, whatever. You're going to find that this is going to be more varied. Like, yeah, you've got 5 threads tied up, but only have a +2 to hit. A +2 to hit.
A level 5 thread.
What's that? Well,
a level 5 thread, not 5 separate threads.
Right, correct. Level 5 thread. You got +2 to hit, you got +2 to damage, you got +2 to your armor, your physical defense, and now +2 to your spell defense, or whatever the numbers have to be. They vary around, and you will find that all of that adds up over time and makes you much more versatile than just being like, I just want to do the skull crushing thing.
Exactly.
Well, you can't get to the skull crushing thing if he's looking at you going loo 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 loo, and you're running away like a little punk.
Exactly. If he gets into your brain and messes with your brain and makes you afraid, or makes you miss, or makes you run away, or just makes you paralyzed, then you're going to lose.
And that deed that he gave was perfect.
Yeah, it's still loosely connected to the overall function of the item.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more ancillary, more background stuff. But it helps you in all cases against horrors trying to enter your brain. It's great.
Yep.
It's great. This is all great. This is all cool. The key knowledges are what allow this to happen. You have to delve into the history of the item. Remember, the acts of the physical world increase the power of the item's astral pattern, which increases the ability of the item's physical pattern. It's a self-perpetuating thing. The more you do, the more you learn, the more you know, the more powerful it gets.
By the way, Game Masters, great tool for getting players to go across the world into places you want them to go.
Yes. There are many pattern items in the modules, in the book, in the supplements that require deeds, that require the characters to go to an active volcano, go to an ice shelf, go to the deepest mine in the land to do something. So it gets them traveling. It gets them the impetus to move on. And the cool thing is, once they're in motion across the world, that gives the game master a great ability to create new adventures in that new area. Side quests, maybe, or introduce a new main quest.
Mhm.
So that's what these deeds are for, to get the player characters moving, get them moving around the whole country, not just one little area, one little fiefdom. No, keep them moving around, because the higher their legend grows, the more influence they have on the world, the more powerful they become. And that just self-perpetuates, becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. It's an excuse to have them known in places they've rarely been, because their deeds are so great and far-reaching and wide of scope and wonderful of scale that people that have never seen them have heard about them.
Mhm.
That's when you know you're getting up there. When your legend
Now,
grows.
how do you find those key knowledges or the find that you have to do the deed?
Well, for the early key knowledges, it's usually research, or you have a troubadour examine the item,
Mhm.
and he will read the pattern to read the history. Like I said,
Item history, yep.
everything, yeah, everything that has happened to this axe, to this piece of armor, to this gazebo, or whatever the true name item is written in its astral pattern. Its history is written in the astral pattern. If you are good enough, you can read it like a book.
Well, there's one caveat to that. The item history ability cannot be used to answer the key, but it will put you in the direction of getting, like, go to
Yes.
the library of Thrall and find out XYZ. Like,
Yes.
looks here that you have to figure out where a major battle was that this guy fought in. Great, now I got to go to dumb library or go talk to some high-ranking
historian or
officers.
something.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
find. But so you still have to do something after the fact. But absolutely, those
But
troubadours.
it will be like a compass that points
Yeah.
you in the right direction.
Yep.
Now, when you're in that history, you say, "Oh yeah, he was in this great battle, and to win it, he erected this giant wall around the city to defend against the enemy long enough to where he could get victory." That's a key knowledge you have to know. But now you have to go to a village, erect barricades around the village, and protect it from an onslaught.
For a
That's your
deed, yep.
deed.
Mhm.
Those two together, now you can roll to increase your thread power, to increase the magic you're getting from that item. It's like that. It's knowledge is power exemplified. The more you know about something, the more power you can squeeze out of it.
One last thing that I want to say is cool about most thread items, there are a couple of exceptions, is no matter if it's a rank 1, so the first rank, the thread that you tie to it, or it's the 7th rank of the thread that you tie to it, it's usually still just a +1 or a +2 bonus. So it isn't like you go +1, +1, +1, +4, +4, +9,
No.
+12. No,
There
because they're
are
cumulative.
there are some swords and axes that
I think
constantly
+3.
increase their damage throughout every level, but it's not by a lot. It's by one step,
Yeah,
2 steps
exactly.
at the most. But it levels up with you, basically. It levels up with you. Now, but you're thinking, well, Heathenog, what about how does that work with discipline characters? It's the same thing. You are altering your pattern every time you go up a rank. Every time you go up in a circle, you go up in a level, your pattern has changed from a first circle warrior to a second circle warrior. Well, what does that mean? It means your pattern can push magic more efficiently, which means you can increase your ranks and your talents higher, and you can gather more magic quickly. You're basically changing your pattern to make your pattern more efficient in pushing magic. That's what you're doing. You're altering your pattern every time you go up a circle.
One of the things I really like about Earthdawn also is in games like Dungeons and Dragons, you get a bunch of experience points, and then poof, you're the next level. No. Circles in Earthdawn are actually validation of what you can already do.
Yes.
You can do all the stuff for second circle, and then you basically become validated by some experts that say, you are second circle. You can perform these maneuvers. You qualify. Good job.
Yes. Yeah. You have to qualify, and then you have to. It's kind of like fake it till you make it. Whereas there are certain hurdles you must do to get from first circle to second circle. You have to have this many talents at least second rank. You have to you have to have this many legend points spent. You have to have this spent, and then you can go to a trainer, pay the trainer money or some other way to get them to guide you through meditation to permanently alter your pattern with this new information that is now the new you, and then your second circle.
Ghostmaster.
So yeah, let's get to some of the comments.
Okay. I don't have too many. Oh, I guess I had 4. Per says this game is where no one would invent a parachute. Okay, that's what I was trying to look
go
up.
Next one. Go the next one.
Well, no, but this doesn't answer the question. So
there are airships in Earthdawn. The game is named after one. Yeah. True, but the reason I wanted to put these two together is because in a world where everyone who rides in an airship can magically make themselves float, parachutes is worthless. No one would even come up with the idea of a parachute.
I was looking for it in here. I know it's in here because I found it when I ran it as a module when I was running my Earthdawn game a couple years ago.
It actually says no one would think of a parachute. Stop it.
Yep.
No one would think of it because Magic already does that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to understand that this is a high magic world. The first thing they're going to try and solve problems with is magic. And most people, if it can't be solved with magic, it can't be solved.
And you've got everything from elemental air, you got air carpets, or I'm sorry, flying carpets. You've got, I mean, just the disciplines alone have, sky raiders, air sailors, and so forth.
Yeah, they have the ability to survive a fall from almost any height at first circle.
Garthon proved that.
Who would make a parachute? You know, that's dumb. No one would even think of it. But but in Shadowrun, they started at no magic and got some magic, which means the idea of making a non-magical fix to a problem is more readily thought of because everyone grew up with technology, not magic. So you would, if you want to stop from falling out of the sky, your first thing would be like, oh, I'll make something to slow me down. Not, oh, I'll just use magic to slow myself down. In Earthdawn, the second thought would come first. In Shadowrun, the first thought would be the one that comes first. So that's how it works.
And airships are safe. Most people don't fall off of them.
Yeah. Airships, you really have to basically turn to shredded cheese for it to fall out of the sky. I mean,
which is what happens in this
things that float. Yeah, it's made of things that automatically float on their own for the most part. So, yeah.
So if I'm tracking the discussion properly, can more mundane items become pattern items?
Yes.
Simple answer, yes. It's hard.
Long answer, it's difficult. It's difficult. You not only have to do legendary things with it, people have to know you did it with it. And they have to believe that the item was one of the main reasons you succeeded. If those caveats are met, then the item can become a true pattern item.
And Point Blank would say weaponsmiths can find weapon key knowledges too. I think, I think they
just
can.
Just weapons, yes.
I think half
Troubadours
magic, right?
can do it to any item.
Yeah.
Troubadours can do it to anything. Weaponsmiths can do it to weapons, but they're better at it.
Is weaponsmith the item history or is it half magic? I forget.
I think it's half magic for weapon key knowledges. So they're better at it for the most part, especially at higher circles because it's easy.
But still, even that weaponsmith can tell you the story or like part of the story or what story you need to go find. You still have to go get the key knowledge.
You still got to go get it. But you know, it's only for weapons, but it's much more useful.
Theoretically, I would say yes, but here's Earthdawn is pretty, especially first edition, is pretty blunt about a couple of things. Number one,
stop it.
Well, one of them is about evil characters. It flat out says there's enough evil in the world because this is a post-apocalyptic game. Again, we don't have time to give you everything about Earthdawn, but it's a post-apocalyptic time as that magic is settling down and the horrors just got done ransacking the globe. It says there's enough evil in the world.
Screwed up enough.
Yeah. You don't need to play evil characters, so it doesn't even go in that direction. So now something like this, I think, would fall under that. Now, could you theoretically make cursed item? Maybe, but I think it would be more of a horror tainted item personally. I don't think that magic would imbue in something that kept failing. But I mean, theoretically, you could say, I named it.
Yes, theoretically, if a lot of people keep seeing you use this axe and say, "Oh, I'm going to split your skull," and you miss every damn time. And people know it, and people say, God dang, why does he keep using that axe? I think it's the reason he's missing. Then that would become a pattern item, but attaching a pattern to it means you are -2 steps to hit with a called shot to the head. That's technically correct.
Yeah. Yep.
But I wouldn't do it. But you could.
Yeah. So simple answer: yes, you could. I think it breaks the spirit of the game.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
Okay, well, there we go. That's some Earthdawn for you. People have been bugging me for a long time to talk about Earthdawn, and I'll be honest, I forgot some of this stuff. Some of the Rumble chat that went on. I forgot some of this, and I'm glad the Heathen Dog brought it back up. It was, reconfiguring the brain there. I've been watching too much Futurama, but yeah, all good, and it's actually making me want to start looking into some Earthdawn stuff again. And I think that first edition has the best supplements. Is it the best game or not? That's up to you. We talked about that off video, just for the live stream portion of it. But you can watch the other videos in there and get that. But I think first edition has the best supplements. Fourth edition is still coming out with supplements, is still doing its own thing. I don't necessarily know what that is. I stopped buying the book after the stuff after the companion.